All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm just giving everyone a minute to get connected, but it's fabulous to see you all on a Monday morning for us here in New York City, possibly another time, depending where you're dialing in from. But my name is Jesse LeCavalier. I'm the director of the Masters of Science in Advanced Urban Design here at Cornell University at our New York City campus. And I'm really happy to be welcoming you to this morning's information session about the program. So in order to be able to share this for people who registered who couldn't make it, or for people who are interested in the program in the future, we are planning to record this. So if you'd like to not be included in that recording, you can keep your video off. The plan today is to hear a few different pieces of the program. I'm going to begin by showing you some images and explain some of the ambitions of the program, some of the structure of the program, some of the things that I think make it unique. And then we'll hear from some current students who are in the program about what brought them here. We'll hear from our executive director of the New York City campus, Bob Balder. And then we'll hear from Mitch Glass, who's a professor in the planning program, about some of the relationships between the New York City campus and the Ithaca campus. And then we should have ample time for questions. As you're listening, if a question pops up, feel free to add it to the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and we can address it that way as well. But I'm really happy to see all of you, and I'm really excited that you're here. And I think I'll dive into the presentation. As I figure out where it is. There it is. All right. Does that look good, everyone on the Cornell side? Fantastic. So this is not what New York City looks like now, but it's a reminder that New York City is one of the best places you could possibly find to study urban design, because it's one of the places that has seen so much transformation. And you can really find any given urban challenge here in New York City, but you also find the things that make studying cities so amazing and so exciting, because this is such a vital place to think about the city. So the program is, before I get into the details, I wanted to just add a few things about who I am, just to give you a bit of a context. I'm trained as an architect, but I have an urban design focus, and my research in particular has to do with questions of systems and infrastructure. And part of my research and design work is a practice of writing and researching, including a series of articles and publications, and a more significant work from my perspective is the book that I wrote about Walmart and logistics called The Architecture of Fulfillment. But I also have a design practice that looks back and forth between some of the findings of this research and looks for ways to connect that to some of the possibilities for thinking alternatively about the future of the city. And that takes shape in a range of projects, from competitions to installations to small public spaces and so on. And so for me, I really see these two pieces as part of my own work, but it's also something that I think the urban design program is working to instill, this relationship between coming to a deep understanding of the city, and then using that to fuel curiosity about what the city could become. So the MS AUD program uses the tools of design to connect ecology, technology, and community in pursuit of more just and nourishing futures. The program advocates for an approach to urban design that challenges the status quo by supporting students to develop critically engaged and radically imaginative spatial practices. And I'm using these images of choreography, which maybe might not seem immediately obvious as their connection to the city, but I'm using them as a way to think about the relationship that we have with each other, with the city, with the context, and with the ways that things unfold over time. One of the things I think is amazing about the program, and what I think makes it really unique, is that we are really immersed in the city. We take advantage of the fact that we are in an incredible location with this amazing city at our fingertips, and we're out in the city as much as we can. And we try to engage real issues with people who are on the ground dealing with them. Here we are. I'll show you some more images of these site visits, but here we are in Long Island City exploring a piece of abandoned MTA infrastructure next to one of the densest parts of the city. Here we are in a surprising space of almost wilderness-like qualities. It's an intimate program, so we have it's a program that gives students a lot of attention and a lot of personalized attention, which I think is something that's really significant. And so we're able to have these high-level conversations in the middle of a dynamic and lively urban setting in Lower Manhattan. And we connect the design questions to pressing urban challenges. It's important for me, for the program, that we remember that urban design engages the real world, engages things that are happening. And so here we are talking to Lauren Wong, who's the director of climate programs at Governor's Island. And we've been using the space of the studio and the colloquium and the practicum to think about how urban design can connect to these real issues. And the program supports connections with local communities. So we're out talking to people, we're out getting involved with what's happening. Here we are on some site visits. On the left, Gary Lum, fifth generation proprietor of a shop in Chinatown called Wing on Wow, and also related to a nonprofit arts organization in the same site. On the right, Alan Suna, founder of Silver Cup Studios, a media production company in Long Island City, and he's really a really important figure in the economic vitality of this place. Further down the road, we're talking to two activists here who founded a community garden basically by occupying government land without them realizing it, and then over time being granted tenure for this amazing several acre community garden. And then right across the street, literally across the street, is this incredible high-end manufacturing facility that makes modular data centers and engineers a lot of the components for the New York City subway system. And so this is just an example of, I think, what makes New York City so unique is that you have these two very different pieces smashed together, but these people are all friends. They all talk to each other and they're all part of a community. And I think this is where we learn so much from being immersed in the city. We also connect to communities of design professionals. So our location in Lower Manhattan is right in the middle of a whole range of design offices. And so we're able to get them involved in our conversations. So here's Dara Brawley from WXY joining us for a review of some of the student work. And on the right, Shashi Pandey, Dongping Wong from Food, and Jay Shin here joining us for a review and conversation of the work in progress. Because it's an intimate group, we also get to spend a lot of time together. And so you also form really tight bonds with your cohort, which I think is something very special about the program. And here, we take an annual fall trip to Ithaca to see the Cornell campus and to make connections with the faculty and students at the home base, in a way, the mothership. But this is where we are. I can't think of a better place to study the city. We're at the very end of Lower Manhattan, here in the Standard Oil building, which is perched right over the harbor and in the middle of the financial sector of the city, which is currently undergoing a dramatic set of transformations. We'll hear a little bit more about the space from Bob, but here we are on the 20th floor. And one of the things that's brilliant about the space is, as I've mentioned, it's connected to the local community and the local design community. So we've been, through our lecture series, able to host a series of almost salon-like events where the community, students, people from professional community, people from the local surroundings can come together to listen to people working at the cutting edge of the field. Here, Rosetta Elkin describing her work from her current book about climate change and retreats. And these have become really lively spaces of a kind of conversation that I think is really vital to a program. These are some of the other speakers we've had join us, and some images from, for example, Linda Neri and Rosanna Hugh, whom we had join us a few weeks ago. And I think one of the things, again, for me, that the space of the program gives us this way of being in the city, but having a little bit of a reprieve from the city. So we have this oasis in our site that allows us to engage the city, but also to find a little bit of a retreat from it. And we're able to see it from different angles. So here we are in Chinatown, here we are at Silver Cup, really getting out there and getting involved. And so this fall, we've been looking at questions of of infrastructure, but we're also engaging with the larger community of Ithaca. So here in our field trip, we had a series of sessions with some of the Ithaca faculty that allows us to gain insight from the wealth of expertise there. And even if we're in New York City, everyone in the program is still very much a Cornell student. So you have access to all of the Cornell resources, the libraries, other faculty, and it takes, maybe it takes an extra day or two to get a book, but all of that stuff is still at your fingertips. All of the student resource support, all of the career placement support, all of that is part of our program as well. So you're very much a student of Cornell. And so I'm just showing, these are one of the other things that we're trying to do on top of being immersed in New York City is also to engage the city through a range of modalities. So empirical engagement, so direct observation, deriving ideas from that observation, but then also a range of visual communication in different formats. So everyone in our first assignment, everyone made a small publication in the spirit of zines from kind of counterculture space. But then we also have a significant technology component to the program. So in parallel to the studio, everyone in the program takes a practicum that introduces a range of skills related to urban data analysis and visualization. So this is a discussion of that project with professionals from the field. Here, this on the right, Marcus is the head of visual design for The Guardian in the US, for example. So the idea is that we're combining technology and theory, and the studio brings those things together. So I won't go through this in a lot of detail, but just so that it's for the record on the recording. The fall is a kind of introduction and overview. We start with the studio orienting and creating a sort of shared language for the program. The representational and technology component deals with questions of mapping and data, but through an engagement with high-level sets of skills. And then there's a colloquium that engages a set of foundational urban theories. In the spring, the studio becomes a little bit more world-building, centered on a single site in the city. The practicum extends the work from the fall and adds another layer of skills, including also possibilities of engaging and creating our own sets of data and tools for interacting with that data. And the colloquium in the spring engages processes of urban transformation. It's called Agents and Agencies of Transformation. And what we do is we talk to different people and entities who are actively involved in shaping the city, from the sort of good, the bad, and the ugly, from the community organizations and activists to the real estate professionals, all the people who are engaged in shaping the city somehow. And then the summer, the studio anchors the work a bit more in a kind of community context. The practicum gives people more space to chart their own course, and the colloquium deals with questions of practice. What does it mean to be an urban designer? What does it mean to survive as an urban designer? How do you find work? How do you seek out pathways to be successful in multiple ways? The faculty, and we benefit, one of the amazing things about being in New York City is we benefit from an incredible set of talent in the area. So Brian Ho currently works at Google. He was part of Sidewalk Labs. He's now a product manager for their product Delve. And then Eduardo Rega Calvo is teaching the colloquium. He also teaches at Penn and is an amazing thinker and designer. In the spring, I'm very excited to be welcoming Damon Rich and Jay Shin of Hector to be teaching the studio. Nuria Zhang, also at Google, will be continuing the practicum, and then I'll be teaching the colloquium. And then the spring is the summer is getting confirmed, but it's looking like Shachi Pandey from Municipal Urban Design Workshop will be teaching the studio, and then Dante Young, I'm in conversation with him about the practicum, and then Damon will teach the seminar about practice. And I think I can't imagine a better person to be engaging that set of questions, having worked across every sector from nonprofit to government to private practice. So Damon brings an amazing insight into this. The 3 courses that are currently on offer this fall, Brian's course is called Sticky and Wicked, a critical introduction to urban data. My studio is related to an idea of ritual as it connects to infrastructure. And then Eduardo is looking at a question of assembly, how groups come together to offer counter practices and parallel practices to urban design. Reading and discursive engagement is a big part of our program. It's important that as urban design leader, future urban design leaders, that you are versed and situated in contemporary literature. So this includes also a series of guest speakers who bring their own work to, particularly to the program. We heard from Hannes Freikholm, one of the editors of Infrastructural Love, also Marie-La Adams from Landing Studio, and Jeanette Kim from the CCA in California. And I'm showing you some work. This is very much work in progress, but just to give you a flavor of some of the work from the students. This is from initial empirical engagements with the program, with the sites in Lower Manhattan, documenting some use and misuse of infrastructure, and then translating that into a series of proposals for some small urban spaces in the city. And then following that, an engagement with a set of mapping questions. And I think what I want to emphasize here is that this is not just applying tools in ArcGIS or something. This isn't just clicking buttons, learning how to navigate the software. This is really getting under the hood in a way to deal with a really large set of data, a massive data set from the city that's all of the related to the tax data. And so students were able to go from they were looking at unused open spaces in the city. And that if you take the raw data set, that's like 8,000 sites or something. And so students through tools from Python and some of the collaborative tools through Google are able to take that data set, limit it, control it, export a series of profiles, as you see here, through Grasshopper, and then able to add other layers on top of that. In this case, the gradient rainbow circles here are demographic gradients that show a mixture of different kinds of people who are adjacent to these sites. And so you see that the level of detail here is really amazing to be able to go from this massive, almost overwhelming data set to then controlling it at this high level. So just to give you a sense of kind of what that is looking like under the hood, that we're really engaging with some of the kind of coding challenges here. So it's really, this is not something that they make it look easy, but the students have really gotten a sense of how to work with this stuff. So if you want to learn more and see what we're up to, keep an eye on our Instagram account, Cornell AAP NYC. This is not just urban design, this is all of our goings on at AAP NYC, but please have a look. There's a lot of other resources there, including a recent takeover from one of our current students, where you can get a bit of a sense of the daily life in the program, as well as images from our reviews, from our lectures, from our field trips, and then also the parallel pieces that are happening, which I will note, and we'll hear more about this from Bob Balder, but one of the brilliant things about being where we are is that even though our program is housed there, it also is the site for the MArch, BArch, city planning and landscape programs that cycle through, and BFA and MFA programs that cycle through the city. So there's our studio and the MSAUD program, but there's something like 90 students currently in AAP New York City this fall. There's 5 other studios. There's a number of other seminars. It's a really dynamic place, and it's a really lively place, certainly to teach, and I have a feeling also to be a student. So I'm coming to a conclusion. I'll see you in August 2024, I hope. I will stop sharing and introduce some students, and then we'll hear from Bob. So thank you, everybody. Some for on folks from the current program as they appear in my my screen. So as they show up on the grid. So maybe Richard, do you mind starting us off? Just yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Richa. I have a background in architecture and a semester so far for all of us. And it's also important and incredible to also see New York City like as an extension to our learning space, which also just supports whatever learning we are doing over here in our theories and our practicums. So
Thanks, Richa. Yeah, I know. So I should add, probably visiting, and you all have been through this too. We're in the last week of the semester, so interesting is probably a generous way to put it, but it's a let's see. How about you, Lydia, please?
Oh, hi, good morning. I'm Lydia and I'm from Beijing, China. Well, I have a background in architecture, but I shift my interest to urban design because I once read from a New York Times critic saying that architecture without understanding the urban background is like it's like a sculpture. So like what is a better place to study like urban's potential and challenge like New York City? So like this program has great potential for me. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lydia. Let's see who's next. Joshua, please.
Hi, good morning, or maybe good night, if you to the folks who join. My name is Joshua. I just finished my 5-year bachelor in upstate New York, Syracuse. I really like the MSAUD program. I don't have a reason to not apply it with the idea of merging with different disciplinary. If you want to know about it, please contact me if you can. I can leave my contact information. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Joshua. Yeah, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Yaya, and I'm from Beijing. I also have an architecture background. And about what brought me here, firstly, it's a New York-based program. It's very exciting. And also, urban design just sounds exciting. And I like to think on a larger scale and to cope with complex issues like climate change, infrastructure reviving. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah. And then let's see, finally, Jishnu, please.
Thank you, Jesse. Hi, everyone. I'm Jishnu, and I also have a background in architecture. I like this course because I think there are different layers that are addressed in this course, including the government policies, political influence on cities, climate change, and many more. And obviously, as Jesse mentioned and everybody else mentioned, the best part is that we're in New York City, and we get to have inputs from architects or designers who have their own practices in the city. So that I feel is the best part about this course. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jishnu. Thanks, everybody. Thanks again for joining. So I'll turn it over to Bob Balder for a few minutes to give us a little bit more context about the space and what's going on in AAP NYC. Bob, please. Bob, I'm not sure I can hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, perfect. No,
okay, great. Get this little headset, likes to turn itself on and off. You can see the screen okay?
Looks good.
Great. Let me jump right in. Wanted to just give you a little overview of some of the space and how let me see if I can get this fixed. 1 second. There we go. Let's see. No. Let's see. Sorry, folks. There we go. Finally, it's going very slow. As we were saying, some of the critical elements of New York City, we've been around since 2006. The program has been constantly evolving and growing and adding additional degree capacity. So we have been able to modify our program extensively over its history. But of course, as Jesse was mentioning about immersion, we really see ourselves as the opportunity to really engage in art, architecture, urban planning, urban design. Many of the faculty members here are practitioners in New York City from a very broad array of fields. And we also want you to have a chance to also explore different offices and see how people are actually conducting themselves in New York City, from large to very small intimate practices. We, of course, have our lecture series. There's also the possibility for many of our students to do summer internships. And then, of course, we have alumni events and we engage in special tours. And of course, culturally, we have an amazing array of things here to explore in New York City culturally. Let's see. Slides moving? Okay, Jesse, you can see I'm on enrollment. Okay. Just to give you a sense of it, we have a lot of diversity in our student cohort, a number of which are optional students that have the choice to come to New York City. Similarly, we also have a program in Rome, which is our sister program. But many of the students that come here are coming here because they're really passionate about urbanism and understanding the city. So in the fall of 24, you can see kind of the diversity of both urban design, architecture, city and regional planning, urban studies, as well as Master of Landscape Architecture. Sorry, my slides are going very slow today. I'm not sure why, but let's see. How's that? Can you see the building? Got it. Okay, folks. Yeah, I'm having to do some dancing here to make this move. This is, of course, where we are. Jesse mentioned the Standard Oil building. Really easy to get to, very convenient from pretty much everywhere in New York City, which is why we're here. You can't miss this. You come to the Bull, and there we are. There's our fabulous lobby and holiday time. And of course, we have an amazing view of New York Harbor, Statue of Liberty, extremely iconic. We have a single floor, but you can see we can use it. It's really kind of almost a theatrical space. It's adaptable to all kinds of needs that we have. This is kind of what it looks like about now as we come to the end of the semester. Very lived in, very active. But we have this very flexible gallery space with fabulous light that we can have for studying, team projects, as well as jury reviews, and of course, exhibitions, the ability to have alumni networking events. And we also have students that are working with us. Jishnu and Richa are working with us right now. And also Joshua is our man all around to help us keep it all going. So we do have a number of positions where you can work with us to help facilitate our practice. We also have a great Canvas website where we share a lot of our resources for all of the support materials you need while you're here. And of course, Jesse mentioned the library. We actually deliver books. You can order online, have them sent to us really rapidly. And then we also do portfolio reviews. We work very closely with our Director of Career Services based in Ithaca. So each fall and spring, we have essentially a required portfolio review. Our next one is in February. It will be hosted by Robert A.M. Stern's office. We'll have about a dozen different reviewers, alumni, as well as friends of Cornell. So we obviously want to make sure you get some feedback. And then in terms of our space, we're of course really close to all the transit systems, easy to get here, easy to get around. And then of course, here you can just see kind of the network that we're located. And we also have our trains, our bikes, all over the place, so really easy to get around. So I'll stop there and just wanted to welcome everyone. If you are in New York City for any reason during the holidays or passing through at some point, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my contacts in the chat, but happy to have you see the space directly. And also we do have a second studio at Cornell Tech where we actually have about a similar setup, capacity for another 40 to 50 students there. And we're also building a new expanded super studio on that campus at the Tata Innovation Center. So as I mentioned, we're constantly evolving and growing our program here in New York. I've been here since 2010, keeps me on my feet, but happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks so much.
Fabulous. Thank you, Bob. I mean, another way to say that one of the real amazing things about the MS-AUD program is the ability to get to work with Bob Balder. So it's one of many benefits. And Bob mentioned the really robust alumni network in New York City, which is really true, and it certainly has been my experience since I joined Cornell. There's a really rich network, and there's also a lot of enthusiasm and support. And so one of our goals through this engagement with the professional community in New York City, through the lecture series, through the alumni events, through the portfolio reviews, through office visits, is also to make sure that people who are joining the program are able to think about where they'd like to go next, and to make sure they're supported in figuring out what's the right move for them, whether that's joining an office, starting their own office, creating a whole other kind of entity. We're really here to support that and what that could look like. And very quickly, we're also joined by Mitch Glass, who's joining us from the planning program, and Mitch has volunteered to say a few words about a super exciting initiative that connects the urban design program with some of the other goings on at the college. So Mitch, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Hi, everybody. Great to see you. My name's Mitch Glass. I'm a faculty member in the City and Regional Planning Department in Ithaca at AAP, and also have an appointment in the Department of Landscape Architecture. So it was really nice, Jesse, actually, to see a couple of my students in your photographs there working in your studio, which is wonderful. It's a nice overlap to have the two programs and the symbiosis, actually the three programs between City and Regional Planning, Landscape Architecture here at Ithaca, and Architecture here in Ithaca, and also the MS AUD program in New York City, and all the great things you guys are doing. But the thing that Jesse mentioned and wanted me to talk about for a minute was a competition called the Urban Land Institute Hines Student Urban Design Competition. And I'm the faculty advisor for that competition here in Ithaca. And what it is, it's an international competition that's held every year. Urban Land Institute is a nonprofit hub of real estate, urban design, architecture, landscape architecture professionals that's based in Washington, D.C. They've been around for probably about 60 or 70 years. About 20 years ago, a competition was endowed by Gerald Hines, who was a developer in Houston beginning in the 1950s and 60s, was well known for hiring great architects and great consultants, but he endowed this competition. And what it is a site in a North American city. It's a real site, usually about a 5 or 6 block site near a downtown. And teams of 5 graduate students organize themselves, and this is both nationally and internationally. There's usually about 100 submissions every year. They pick 4 finalists. Each finalist wins $10,000, and the finalists get to go to the city and present their work to a ULI jury, and the winner receives $50,000. And Cornell has had a pretty good showing. We've had 6 to 8 teams every year. And this year, we're really excited to welcome 3 of your MSAUD students. I think I see 2 of them, Risha and Jishnu, on the call here today, which is super exciting. And they're going to be teaming up with students here in Ithaca. So it's a great way to have synergies and kind of cross collaborations between our 2 campuses. And we're really excited to see how that goes. That happens over winter break. It happens in January. Very intensive 2-week competition, and the submission is right before the spring semester starts. So that will be happening soon.
Obvious. Thanks, Mitch. And yeah, I think that the thanks for reminding me about the landscape program too, because yeah, of course, we've been really benefiting from the overlaps between the different inputs, and I think this is these I think relationships I hope will continue to flourish, and the competition is one of those venues. I also want to make sure before we open it up to questions to introduce Cindy Bowman, who's also joining us today, who's the graduate programs coordinator. And so Cindy, also an amazing part of the team, and an incredible set of energy, and also someone who you'll likely be interacting with if you apply to the program. So Cindy, thanks so much for joining. I don't know if would you want to say a word or two about your role?
Well, just thank you all for coming, and we're excited to see everybody this morning. If you have any questions, you should feel free. I'll put my contact information in the chat. I do have to go on to another meeting soon, so I won't be on for too long, but I tend to be in touch with Cheyenne also on the call during admissions, and the 3 of us, Jesse, Cheyenne, and I, will be in contact with you during the admissions season. So again, thank you all for coming this morning, and we're really glad to see you.
Thanks, Cindy. Yeah, I know you have to bounce because of some many competing commitments this morning. So thanks for joining us. And then yeah, of course, Cheyenne Fritchie, who's part of the admissions team here. So you might be hearing from Cheyenne too in the process. So that concludes our presentation. Now we have some time to open it up to questions. We'd love to hear what your questions or concerns might be. Don't be shy, even if it seems like a small question, a practical question. This is a great time. If you have it, very likely that many other people also have it. So please let us know. You can either you can unmute or you can put it in the chat, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Yes, I see Kajal Salani has raised a hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kajal and I have a background in architecture and urban design. I was just wondering that since you spoke about the program, it focuses on the New York City, at least from the presentation that we saw. Is it flexible to bring in some Asian cities or some other background that would be applicable for the studio?
It's a great question. Thank you. I'll answer it, and then if anyone else from the program wants to chime in. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic question because it has to do with the ways that urban design connects to broader contexts. So we focus at the studio, we focus on New York City sites and questions. Part of that is because this is where we are, and this is where we can, I think, learn the most from our context. But there's a range of other ways that background and other contexts can show up. And so one of those ways is through the colloquium. So through the related elective courses. So in terms of what you might study or write about, for example, in the course that Eduardo's teaching, or in the course coming up in the spring that has to do with a series of urban transformation case studies. So I think that's one space for it. The other is in the way that we teach urban design is also through the engagement with significant or exemplary or otherwise instructive examples. And so I think this is also a space to bring those kinds of references in. And then I think one of the things that's amazing about teaching the program is that everyone's bringing their own perspectives and contexts and backgrounds to bear on a place. And so in a way, coming to New York City doesn't mean you have to think like a New Yorker, that you can actually bring your own perspective and outlook, which actually then enriches the whole conversation. So I think this is one of the ways I might think about this question. I don't know if anyone from the program wants to add anything about that question between the role of other contexts and how those might show up in the program. Yeah, Bishop, please.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Also, I was just wondering that throughout the semester, all of us are coming from different contexts. So we have been having very interesting discussions on what are the role of the cities in the context that we come from, and how or what are the kind of things that we can integrate and see the role of urban design in New York. So it has been kind of quite interesting to see the mix of diversities and also the set of ideas that we bring with us. So yeah.
And just to add one more thing, New York is a very diverse city. So all inputs from all backgrounds, as Richa said, is very helpful and very useful in this context. So that's something we've been doing. Yeah.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you. I think the other thing I would add too is that New York is New York is a kind of exceptional city in the United States context because there's no other American city like it, but it also is, you could find some version of a lot of other cities here because it's such a heterogeneous place. But Kajal, does that help answer your question a little bit?
Yes, actually. Since I told you that I come from an urban design background, in our studio, we were a set of 22 students. So in that particular context, we brought 22 different cities. So I was wondering if that is flexible in the curriculum as well, or it would be precisely focusing on the New York City.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I think that we're, we use these case studies in the city because we can go, we can go see them, we can go talk to people who are directly involved with them, which is what we're doing at Long Island City. So we've had conversations with people who are from different points of view. So someone who's coming from the community organizing side, someone who's part of an economic organization, someone who's part of a nonprofit. We just heard from someone who was part of who's part of a planning organization and is part of a community land trust engaged with the site. This is an opportunity I think that New York brings forward, but I think it's really not mutually exclusive with these various backgrounds. Let's see. I see another question from Maria. Is it possible to make a dual degree of MArch and MS? And I think Cheyenne, thank you for answering. The one thing, it depends a bit on your background. So the program is a post-professional degree, which means that you are required to have a terminal degree in, a primary professional degree in the various design-related fields. So if you have a BArch already, for example, that would qualify you to apply directly to the urban design program. If you don't have a professional degree yet, you would need an MArch. If you wanted to have a professional degree in architecture, you would need an MArch to first then apply to the MS AUD. So it would be more of a sequence if you don't have a prior professional degree, but if you already have a BArch or equivalent and are interested, you could apply directly into MS AUD. And then in terms of maybe the kind of day-to-day interactions, we do have, the studio has some spots for MArch students. So we do have interactions with some folks from the MArch program. And then in the elective courses, which are, I should reiterate that in addition to the 3 required courses for the program, people in the program have options to take elective classes in the AAP NYC offering more generally. So this fall, we've had visualization seminars. We've had a theory seminar from Peter Eisenman, a seminar on writing in the city from Cynthia Davidson, a seminar on environmental theory from a emerging scholar from Princeton. We have a course on New York City construction from an engineer at Guy Nordenson's office. So it's a really fantastic set of offerings, and those things are all available to you that way. So and then I should also add, depending on the background of everyone here, that we don't rely only on architecture backgrounds, and we're in fact really enthusiastic if people come from a MLA or planning background, or even if you're coming from, let's say, MFA or something and want to explore this, or some other kind of digital design, consider that. So we're quite open in terms of the origins, but the key denominator is this idea of a professional degree already. Maria, I hope does that help answer your question? What else? What other questions might come up? Perhaps while you're thinking, as you're starting to think about applying, a lot of the admissions information is on the website, and that has the admissions application portal. And yeah, thank you, Cheyenne. Cheyenne just put her contact information in here. The deadline is January 3rd, and I would add that having the point of the program is to help people transition into urban design. So don't feel if you feel like you're coming from architecture but don't have a lot of urban design background in your portfolio but are really excited about the city, that's great. That's exactly what this program is for. We want to be able to make space for people to acquire the skills related to engaging the city in a range of ways. So there's no sense of a kind of prerequisite that way, but demonstrated interest and engagement and enthusiasm for the all things urban is something you can communicate through your statement, through the kinds of work you include, and through the kinds of things that you're interested in doing. Any other questions? Fabulous. Well, I'll take that as maybe a good moment to move to adjourn the session. But feel free to find me, reach out to me if you'd like to talk more. I'd love to chat. If you know of people who are interested, please share the program with them. We're here to answer your questions and to support the process as much as we can. So please be in touch. And thank you again for joining. I really hope to see all of your applications and hope to see you all in the spring. Thank you to everyone from the current program who's joining. I'll see you all momentarily, more or less. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mitch. And thank you, of course, Shan, for helping to organize this. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great week. Good luck if you're in the middle of any of your studies. Great luck wrapping up the semester. And let's be in touch. Thank you again, and see you all soon. Take care.